Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, do we miss Freddie?
And we hear this word thrown around, bantered around, explosive. But what exactly is an explosive offense? What does that mean for the Falcons?
And last but not least, and for the culture, Jadakiss is taking a pivot, and I'm here for all of it. That's all coming up next right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listener of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now, T, the Braves take the L last night, 8-6, and obviously going up against the Los Angeles Dodgers, we understand what all that entails, right? Freddie Freeman coming back and standing ovations. Do we stand up and clap? Do we do this and do we do that? And all that stuff. But, Freddie said, you know what? I'm going to go out here and go 3 for 5. I'm going to take Charlie Morton deep for a 3-run bomb. T, after that particular moment right there, did you kind of look at the situation and say to yourself, do I have FOMO?
I did, and I did.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know how you don't. And we can, and I was going to say we can act like we don't, but we do. But no, we're not acting like it because like you said, it was one of those situations where once the game actually got started after the rain delay, I think the fans that were there in person were like, like, do I sit down? Do I stand up? Do I clap? Do I boo? Right. We don't know what to do because we all still love Freddie Freeman at the end of the day as a human being, no matter what. However, I loved Freddie Freeman as a baseball player last night because I was reminded, as Matt Olson was going over, that Freddie Freeman in his 7 games against his old team with his current team, he's 11 for 28, and he's had 7 home runs, and he hit another multi-home run long ball just last night at a point where the Braves seemingly had control of this game. So it's hard not to have FOMO. And again, we know that it took Matt Olson a while to get warmed up, right? So we understand that that's kind of his pattern, if you will. Fine, if that's who you are. But when Freddie Freeman comes to town and does that almost every single time and it feels like almost every at bat. Obviously, if you're 11 for 28, it's not. But Jarvis, you're approaching 500 at the plate at that point. So it does feel like FOMO, especially because we know at the end of the day, these are the top 2 teams in the National League, the 2 teams with the best records, and they're probably going to be the ones who it goes down to the wire. And like we say all the time, it now puts that pressure on you in game 2 because it's all about at this point winning series because we do know it's going to come down to the wire. And legit, this could be what gives you a series at home for the National League title, if you will, or to play. Thank you, NLCS, because my mind is on NBA, right? So I was like, conference, title, NLCS,
one of those,
one of those things. So you're right. NLCS, we do believe at least that it's going to come down to those teams, and if it does, you most certainly want to be able to at least say, hey, we can get a game 7 here in Truist Park versus having to go to LA for it, and yet. We are looking that far down the road because we know that these are the 2 top teams, and that's what this kind of series boils down to.
And before we move on to game 2 tonight of that series with Spencer Strider being on the mound, I really have to add to what you said as far as, love Freddie Freeman to death, no doubt. I love what he did for the Atlanta Braves and this organization. He will forever be a guy that number 5 will forever be remembered and embedded in my brain. However, like, I am so at the point right now, T, where I feel like we got to start treating him like an outsider because he is an outsider.
He's the enemy.
You know what I mean? like he's an outsider, and he's coming in here, and I'm sure he has a little bit extra motivation because, look at the numbers that you just laid out. This dude is actually balling when he's at Truist Park. So, hey, we need to treat him as such. Like, he's trying to do the Braves in. Like, and I'm putting that as nicely as I possibly can. He's trying to do the Braves in. So, yeah.
Can I just add to the ad?
Go ahead.
So right, because he treats it like it's his home field, like it's his home park. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, it was
this
for
my house.
a chunk of his. Yes, exactly. He went
Very
Deion Sanders on him in a baseball park.
Yes,
Yeah.
this
I mean,
my
like
house.
for
I built
real.
this
So
house.
if I may allude to Jarvis's favorite guy,
Of
so I
course,
feel
yeah.
like you absolutely are right. Like he has to become the enemy at some point.
Mhm.
Everybody on the pitching staff, the coaching staff, has to do what he does. He walks in there and he's like, "Yep, I know Charlie Morton's tendencies. Yep, I know this guy's tendencies, that guy's tendencies," and he takes advantage of it. It's time for this coaching staff to say, "This guy is our mortal enemy. We know his tendencies as well. Let's see if we can kind of pitch our way out of having to face him or stare him down and resume or kind of take control back of our house when he's in it."
Yeah. Let's take control back of our house because he's treating it like it's his. He's putting his feet on the couch, and I am not for that. I don't want to see any of that. Speaking of tonight, they can start by doing that tonight against the Dodgers because Spencer Strider's going to be on the mound. I call him the movie. That's what he is. Like when he's on the mound, it's a movie. And not necessarily the last time he came out, but hey, we are looking for. Well, the Braves still were able to get the win, but we are looking forward to him getting on the mound, T. But is this a must-win, though?
To me, it is. To me, it is because I don't want to see them in a situation where they're scrapping and scraping in game 3 just to kind of avoid the sweep. Because I feel like the Dodgers are no different than the Braves probably would be looking, going for blood. And as the race remain, and I believe this, and I don't take anything away, by the way, from the Phillies, or maybe the Mets won't, Matt, just as an example. But you have enough teams at the top of the National League to where this could come down to, okay, who won the series, or when you come to like the head-to-head competition, that might end up dictating who wins the NL East, or it may end up dictating who gets home field advantage for the NLCS. So yeah, I understand it is technically before Memorial Day, but I still believe that for teams that are literally like 1A and 1B, the race to the pennant starts now.
Yeah, and you have to play it as such because Freddie Freeman is like, I hate to be dwelling on that because when he comes into Truist, like he is playing it like it's his last, and the Braves need to do the same tonight once the movie steps onto the mound. Now,
take advantage of that rookie Bobby Miller who's just pitching for the first time in his major
again.
Yeah, take advantage of this debut.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Yes, we need all that. We need to rock them up, just like T just said. Now, last night was a movie because LeBron James, he got swept last night. I don't know if you guys know about that. It's not because we pay attention to what's going on around the league as well. Not just the Hawks, but I think that when you look at that game last night, T, I think that I don't necessarily believe that people don't understand how good Jokic is. But I think they need to start to understand, like, when he's going up against the guys like a Steph Curry or LeBron James or Anthony Davis or all of those guys who've been around the league for a very long time and are very, very good and great Hall of Fame type guys, they need to start having those same conversations when he's going up against those guys. And I think that's kind of where we are right now when it comes to Nikola Jokic.
I would agree. I think that is why he was out there snatching souls. Not just last night, not just this series. He's been really snatching souls the entire postseason. That's how you average a triple-double. I mean, and that's how you get your 8th triple-double. Only guy in the history of the NBA to ever be able to pull that off in the postseason. I mean, that's pretty darn impressive. And Jarvis, he wasn't just pulling it off like, 20, 10, and 10. He was out there balling into, the 30s, averaging in the 30s points-wise and double-digit, I think maybe like 12 rebounds and like 12 assists. From a big man. Yeah. That's where his third part of his triple-double came.
Chamberlain type numbers. Like,
yes,
that's what we're talking about here, folks.
Right. Right. Or Oscar Robertson, averaging that triple-double when the assist number is a part of that, and being able to have the type of court vision that says, oh, I know I can take you, whoever the defender is, but I see my guy Jamal Murray's hot. I'll kick it out to him. Oh, Michael Porter Jr., you're coming? I got you. I'll kick it out to him. That is unbelievable for a big man to have that type of big vision. And Jarvis, my favorite term in the whole wide world when it comes to NBA, basketball IQ. Yeah, he just has it on a high level. And if you can take your athleticism and your basketball IQ and put that together, like you said, and be on the biggest stage with the biggest guys giving you accolades, LeBron James said it best. He was like, Nikola Jokic is he's that guy. I mean, he would have been a three-peat MVP if, honestly, the voters didn't feel like they robbed Joel Embiid so many times that they had to give it to the guy who finally, completed a season, if you will. But I also think, low-key, that coupled with the disrespect that the Denver Nuggets have been feeling throughout this season, I believe those things are fueling him to say, no, we weren't going to go to a game 5. No, ma'am. No, sir. We don't need to go. We're good. And I do think that there was a willing, Jarvis, that 20-5 run in the third quarter, being down at the half, 15 points, and then everybody just coming together and saying, nope, not today. We're not. We're done here. And they literally put a stamp on it. And I think just one of the things, just before we wrap up, is Nikola Jokic is also able to do what he does because everybody understands the assignment. Yeah. Jamal Murray knew his job. Michael Porter Jr. knew. Aaron Gordon knew his job.
Yeah.
If everybody
had won his best game of the series. Yeah.
There it is, Jarvis. If everybody knows their assignment at a given moment in time, it makes a difference. That's what we saw in the 2 games when the Hawks beat the Celtics. When you know your assignment and you execute within it and maybe play a little bit above where you can play, it produces dividends. So I just cannot wait to see the Nuggets and Heat because, I mean, that's where we are.
And you guys better stick around tomorrow for tomorrow's episode because we'll talk about, is LeBron done? And is he trying to recruit Trae Young on the slick? So make sure you don't miss that. But coming up next in probably about 65 seconds, how about this? The Falcons' offensive system is in play with Arthur Smith. And Desmond Ridder said they are looking to be explosive. But what does that look like? We'll talk about that next. But first, I want to let you know that this episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is the #1 sportsbook in America. Just like we were just talking about the NBA playoffs, you can go down there and check things out. They got the money line, everything that you're looking for. And if you are a new customer, guess what? They have the no sweat first bet, and that is up to $1,000 in bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Let me say that again. They got $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win, up to $1,000. So if you out here betting on LeBron and the Lakers and the Celtics like I thought it was going to go down, no, it's not going to go down. You probably lost your money. So guess what? Go to FanDuel.com and they'll take care of all your new customers right here today. So guess what? I have, a bet that I've been trying to look at. I've been trying to look at what the money line is for this game, what the money line is tonight for the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of the no sweat first bet. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon because it is the #1 source and it is the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Now, Jarvis, I think a no-sweat bet for this year is that the Falcons will best what they did last year, 38 touchdowns overall, right, on the offensive side of the ball. And we'll dig into those numbers in just a moment. But just as you mentioned, our guy Desmond Ridder, he was on Good Morning Football on NFL Network. And the reason I say that, our guy, because we have always believed that was the right move for the Falcons to make in terms of going with Desmond Ridder as QB1.
Of course.
And in addition to that, feeling like he could be a part of what could be an explosive offense this upcoming season, especially with all of the weapons that are put around him. So Ridder said that he feels like the offense can be explosive with all of those offensive additions. There was even another wide receiver, albeit just to kind of round out the core and give him some depth. But the Falcons were able to sign another wide receiver just yesterday. The reason we mention that is because, again, you always hear that word coming from everyone else, explosive. But this time, QB1 said he feels like the Falcons can actually be explosive. So my question to you, Jarvis, just to start us off, is kind of even setting the stage for what you feel that definition of explosive would be for the Falcons, and what does that look like?
Now, we talked about, how from a point standpoint, I'm going to start there. Yes. Like they averaged 25 points last year at home. And I think that, that's going to be really key for them. And also, Desmond Ridder was 2-0 at the Benz last year. Obviously small sample size. But let me take you back to a little bit when he was with the Cincinnati Bearcats. Dude was 26-0 at home. He never lost. So there's something that goes to that, and I really like the fact how he answered the question as far as saying, "Hey, that's not a solo stat. That's a lot of people doing exactly what they're supposed to, and understanding the assignment, like we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Denver Nuggets, like understanding the assignment, understanding what you're supposed to do, because at the end of the day, we're pretty much at every home game at Mercedes-Benz. And in order to get butts in seats, and we know that what Arthur Blanks wants because, he wants to win, true enough. But when you win, guess what? You start making money. You get more butts in seats. You have more of a home field advantage. And that's what they want. And that's what you need, especially when you have a lot of new pieces on defense, T. You need that extra factor. You need that 12th man, so to speak, if I could use that Seahawks mantra, and to help you out, win and be loud on third and long when the quarterback is trying to get all the calls and all that. So I think that if the Falcons take care of home and make sure that they are giving their best performance and putting up those points like they are capable of, because guess what? If you're able to run the football like you did last year, I'm even asking for improvement. If you're able to do what you did last year running the football, and I feel like Desmond Ridder is going to take care of the football a lot more so than Marcus Mariota, that's what an explosive offense looks like for the Falcons to me.
Yeah, and I would add to that for me, an explosive offense looks like a little bit more productivity with what you have now in the wide receiver and tight end room. Yes. And the reason I say that is because, and when I say wide receiver and tight end room, let me rephrase, pass catcher room. Because I think Bijan Robinson, that's where he's going to make the difference. So the split was actually even for the Falcons, 17 receiving touchdowns, 17 rushing touchdowns last season. But Jarvis, that also put a middle of the pack 17 to be exact. And when you look at the top teams, and I'm talking about like the top 5 or 10, those teams that made it to the playoffs, all of their receiving touchdown numbers pretty much doubled their rushing touchdown numbers. So still, you have to have that potent receiving game in order to be successful in this league, right? So I'm just looking for just a little bit of an uptick from a rushing perspective. Why? Because now, in addition to what we got from the right side of the O-line last year and Caleb McGarry giving good run protection, you've got a guy that we hope in Matt Bergeron that will really kind of shore things up on the left side. So maybe if you have a consistently solid O-line, you'll get even a little bit more out of the run game. So I'd love to see maybe something on the other side of 20 touchdowns, right? Right. Receiving, however, 17 is not the answer. 17 is not going to be the answer because there were teams out there doubling that, Chiefs. So I think that my definition of explosion would be, let's continue to evolve and be more efficient and effective in the red zone. Because like you said, with you and I covering this team the last several years, we know that pretty much before last year, anytime the Falcons, it didn't matter, high red zone, low red zone, everybody in the building was cringing because they're like, oh man, here comes Young Wei Koo.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't want to have that conversation. And sort of towards the end of last year when we started to see more productivity from Tyler Algier. And obviously when Desmond Ridder came in, it got better. Like you said, that's why you were able to average 25 points per game. Now just want to see you kind of uptick that, if you will, and start to just have even more efficiency and effectiveness in the red zone. Now, the other piece that I thought was interesting, Jarvis, was this. There's another article that came out just yesterday, Mike Jones of The Athletic. It was an overarching article for the entire NFL. I know, Mike Jones. Go ahead.
This is natural.
Yep, already in my head. Mike Jones came out with an article in The Athletic. Yeah, you can't help it, man. You can't help it. Like, I tried to keep a straight face, but Mike Jones
not with me.
of The Athletic, not he of H-Town. He said that he put together an article that was titled, "Which NFL Players Are Ones to Watch at the Offseason?" Now, of course, he chronicled all 32 teams. We just focused on what he said about the Falcons, and I'll quote it. "It's still too early to know whether 2022 third-rounder Desmond Ridder is capable of being an NFL passer or a capable NFL passer, but the Falcons are giving him the first crack at the job. Meanwhile, they desperately, his words, not ours, desperately need Kyle Pitts, the number 4 pick in 2021, to step up after a season of regression, 28 catches for 356 yards and 10 appearances, followed a 1,000-yard rookie campaign," closed quote. Now, first of all, Jarvis, I want to ask you this, in all fairness. Do you think that Pitt's results last season were more about the limitations of QB1 or that he actually regressed and underperformed?
QB1. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was QB1. And it's funny because Dylan and I actually talked a little bit about this yesterday because I feel like the pressure is still there. Now, even though I'm kind of giving him a pass from a production standpoint, because of Marcus Mariota and the injury, obviously that's a factor as well. But I think just from the overall standpoint, being the highest drafted tight end in NFL history, and we've seen a lot of good tight ends in our time. See, I'm talking about from Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, George Kittle. None of those guys were drafted that high. And when you have when you take that guy at 4th overall, like there's a certain expectation that comes with that, and he's not going to be able to dodge that, regardless of quarterback or injuries or anything like that. So I think that he needs to get 100% healthy, and he needs to perform because I feel like Desmond Ridder can be a guy that can get him the football. I wholeheartedly believe that. That's why I'm kind of a little bit sad because he didn't get a chance to play with him last year, but just look at what he did with Drake London. Those guys were able to establish a relationship with each other off the field, and then it transferred over to on the field. It happens all the time, folks. This is not rocket science. When you are like a person that you're playing with, more than likely, if that's a quarterback and wide receiver, that relationship is going to be really good. And I think that they're going to do nothing but build on that, and I think Kyle Pitts is going to be added into that as well.
I think so too. And, OTAs are beginning. Jarvis is going to be out at Flowery Branch tomorrow. So it'll be great to kind of get his feedback on what he's seeing in terms of even something as small as Kyle Pitts' movement around OTAs as he continues to recover from that injury that sidelined him last year. But yeah, we don't know if he's just the player because there are a number of them that we're watching, but he's definitely one of the players that we're going to be watching throughout OTAs and into the regular season. So listen, everydayers, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it was more on KP that he underperformed and regressed last year? Or do you think it was more on Marcus Mariota? Give us your thoughts. Drop the info, the knowledge in the comments. Tell us why you think that. And hey, as we tell you guys all the time, we have shown you, we will shout you out and we will give that feedback to the rest of our everydayers if you guys give us some good information to think about. So don't forget to continue to watch ATL Day Ones on YouTube. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all the support and the feedback. And wherever you get your podcast, go ahead and download us too. When you're driving down the streets of the A, might as well listen.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you guys because we're almost at 7,000 subscribers, T. Man, these folks have been looking out for you folks. We appreciate you. Tommy, Archangel, Robert Blackman, all those, everybody. Yeah, that's his real name, Robert Blackman, and he's probably black too. So, yeah, it's all good. That's how I get down. Y'all do your history lesson on that as to why that's the case. But, we ain't going to get into that. But, yeah, we thank you guys for being everydayers and dropping those comments in the comments box. Really appreciate you for that. But see, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about. Because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. When you think about hip-hop artists, T, and how a lot of times early on in this game where that was their only means of income, right? Hey, they got to go out there and do shows. They got to be hot. They got to drop the albums. That's the only way you're going to be able to get rich and do your thing and all that stuff. But I think that when you start to see P. Diddy start to expand and doing the alcohols and the liquors and everything, then Jay-Z started doing his thing and reaching billionaire status with he and Beyonce and all that stuff. I think that, that's the part that I really feel like is going to be able to change generations because those guys are doing things that I'm sure their 15 or 17-year-old selves did not see coming. So when I found out that Jadakiss has his own coffee called the Kiss Cafe, and he's partnering up with his pops and his son, and it just makes my heart happy when I see guys out here just going that entrepreneurial route, and like I said, not having to depend on being the next hot thing or doing the features and all that stuff to continue to gain income. It just makes me smile. It just makes me happy.
Oh yeah, and like we talked about before with Bun B and the burgers, like
the Trill burgers.
People just talk about those Trill burgers like they're just the greatest thing ever, And he's also taught classes, I believe, at Texas Southern, if I'm not mistaken. So just the opportunity for these guys to evolve, because all of the guys that we've mentioned, and not taking away, they're too numerous to name, but there were just some where you saw, okay, that one's a little different. They've got a little bit more to offer. LL Cool J, Queen Latifah, and the Evolution, one of the first to own entertainment company, Flavor Unit. So, when you see those hip hop artists, the ones who, spit rhymes and they're geniuses on the mic, but you see them able to evolve. It's amazing. And like you said, also, I know for me, just there was that pride in seeing the 3 generations of Black men coming together to be able to put something together like this. I think that is super duper amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jarvis, but I also think, switching it over a little bit, when guys like Jimmy Butler have a little coffee, have their hands in that space as well, it makes it cool. It lets everybody know, like, you can go out there and look for different ventures, even if basketball or music was what got you the initial money, how you evolve and kind of deepen that, if you will, to the point where it's generational wealth. That's when you got to look beyond, like you said. What's beyond that last album, right? What's beyond that last time I get I get to drop 8 bars as a guest on a track? When's the last time I'm going to be able to lace up these cleats? These guys are thinking ahead, and it's such a beautiful thing to see. And the fact that his son graduated from Clark, I think maybe 5 years ago, and immediately,
2018,
immediately joined the family business. Love it, love it, love it, but not shocked, because Jada's always been forward thinking and always been ahead of his time.
Yeah, because I think that, I think the article did him right, because they deemed him the king of the verses, because we already know how the verses kind of like helped our lives. It fed our souls during the pandemic when we couldn't get out. And I think shout out the verses for coming up with that concept and that idea, because especially in the beginning, because that was the really fun part, because people's connection was out, and then how all the gifs was doggone popping up, and people were it was just obviously the comments were going crazy, and it was just, you be talking to Snoop, and it was just so cool that they came up with that concept. And then when
it gave us a chance to see DMX live before we lost him.
Yeah, exactly. And then to see the Locks go up against Dipset, because I always thought Dipset is just super duper extra. And for Jadakiss to come on and act like he did it with Styles P, you know what I'm saying? Those are the guys that I rock with, because I ain't like no rappers at all. Like, I didn't listen to any of them, but Styles P and doggone Jadakiss, though, I rock with those cats, because they did features with Lil Jon and all that stuff. Man, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm messing with these dudes. So yeah, shout out to them for going out there, doing their thing, from an entrepreneur standpoint, and giving the people what they want. Because hey, I understand expanding your brand, but it is so cool to see them be in their element.
Indeed. And you know what'll be cool tomorrow? If we're in the element of being able to talk about a true rubber match, because we want the Braves, Spencer Strider, to go out there and do some things like make 5 become 4. Okay, I know that was corny, but still. So yeah, hopefully Jarvis and I will be able to talk about a dub from the Braves. Don't know if we'll be able to talk about a dub for the Celtics, but you know what? That might not be a bad deal, because hey, if the Celtics don't make this thing happen tonight, Jarvis, you and I may be looking at the numbers of what it might take to get Jaylen Brown back home.
Get Jaylen.
Exactly. Hashtag bring him out. Because especially if somebody's trying to bring number 11 out west. But we'll talk about it tomorrow if you guys want to know all that, and get a download from Jarvis being up front and up close and personal right there at OTAs and Flowery Branch. You got to come back tomorrow for ATL Day Ones.
At Jarvis D90, at Locked On ATL. I'm dropping videos, I'm tweeting. So yeah, make sure you guys check all that out. And before we get out here, I got to say this, because, I say it each and every day. I got to remind y'all to make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.